Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Give your heart some love with circulation-boosting bioactives, proven to improve blood flow for better oxygen and nutrient delivery. Boost circulation from day one for better cardiovascular performance that keeps improving over time. Try CocoVia Cardio Health Supplement, available as a capsule or a powder. Visit cocovia.com today. That's COCOAVIA.com and use coupon code CCV20 to get 20% off your order. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease.
La 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 la, la 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 la, Elmo's World.
Welcome to the Elmo's World podcast. Joshua Void, he's 25 years old. He's from Canada, Quebec, where before he lived in Washington, D.C., and now he's currently studying archaeology, and we are going to talk about a lot of things that he believes. And Joshua, I want to start with a question. Is morality subjective or objective?
I believe, actually, I don't think it's even a sense of belief. I think that morality in itself is subjective. That everything that morality stands for is based on the subjectivity or the relativity of the other person. So everybody has a different moral compass compared to each other. So henceforth, if that is the truth, then subjectivity is the way to go.
Okay, but then I would start asking you, do humans have human rights?
Well, that's the thing. Humans do absolutely have human rights, because based on my subjectivity alone, I do agree that humans should have human rights. But does that mean that everybody needs to agree with me? Absolutely not. Not everybody needs to agree with my point of view, nor my standpoint.
Okay, so if your own subjectivity is your standard for your own morality, then that would mean that your morality is utterly, I would say this in the term meaningless. It would have no value because it is socially constructed, and it would be super, or it would be permissible.
Actually, I don't necessarily think that would be the case, because if you're looking, right, there's two different types of subjectivity. There's subjectivity based on the individual and subjectivity based on a collective. So an individual who goes and spreads his idea or his or her idea to other people, and those people actually follow his type of rules and his type of ethics and values, they would be a group collective based on this individual or group of individuals' subjectivity. So
yeah, well, in the case that there's an individual or a collective, that wouldn't change the fact that it's all socially constructed. You know, like, for example, if I were an individual who out of my own subjectivity, I would say that all humans have no human rights and it would be no problem for me to murder all of them. Then even the subjectivity of the collective would have no power over my own, because it would simply be more of a fascist, and they're imposing their own beliefs on my own subjectivity.
Okay, I see your point, definitely. But the thing is that that's why that we create these laws, because laws are based on objective. But the thing is that those objective realities based on laws are based on the subjectiveness of, let's just say, the government or the people who are putting those laws in. And these laws constitute the objectivity within a set nation. So that individuals themselves, even though that they do have a realm of subjectivity, they can't do what they want, because the law is there to protect individuals, so that, let's just say, a sociopath or a psychopath, if they are too, let's just say, gone in a sense, if they do attack somebody, they will be upheld to the full extent of the law.
Okay, then in that case, there would be no inherent value to human life because it is simply socially constructed out of your own subjectivity. And then, in that case, it would mean that any government that, for example, the Nazi government that imposed the Holocaust, they would be right in their own subjectivity because it was the collective who imposed what they would do to the Jews. So it's, yeah.
I see your point. I really do. I see your point. And when you look at this is, and as I said, to me, myself, I find that was monstrous. But as you stated, because it's just me, it's useless. And that the only time where it can be actually what I would call a subjective collective or subjective collectivity, I would state, is when a group of individuals realize that that's wrong. And when they realize when that's wrong, even though that it's based on the collective and it's not actually based on the objective, because in reality, even though that I could see that it's wrong, another person could see that what this individual, such as the Nazi government, for instance, they would see them, what they did was right. And henceforth, no matter how I look at it and no matter how I see it, in the end, they believed what they wished to believe. And based on that subjectivity on their part, they thought that they were right doing what they did. So if I'm to stand there and say, like, I can say, oh, that is morally and ethically incorrect, but I'm just one person. So, and just like how any other one person could say that, their standpoint is useless. But when you start building a collective based on these type of ideas, then you actually start gaining weight.
Yeah, but the fact is that the weight you're talking about is zero. When you add it to hundreds of zeros, is still zero. Zero multiplied by a million zeros is still zero. And that's what happens when the collective, the subjectivity of individuals is formed into a collective. And so there would still be no value in their own process of finding what is right and wrong. And that is why, for example, if there were a million Nazis that formed a collective, then they would still be in the right as in the subjectivity of a collective. And so that is why it becomes a cultural thing where morality is very different from culture to culture. But then that would mean that if morality is simply relative to one's culture, then it's simply permissible. Like, there is no inherent thing out there in the universe that would stop you, or in the desert that would stop you from killing another person if it's just permissible.
You're 100% correct. And in a sense, that is the case. Like, if you're out in the ocean, for instance, and this stuff actually does happen, individuals go missing constantly on cruises, thrown overboard, killed and then thrown overboard, and nobody knows anything of what happened to the individual. So whoever did these type of things and did these type of actions out in the open sea, they're kind of okay. So even though what they did, in the way that I look at it, is horrible, it doesn't matter because they were able to do it and they were able to get away with it. And the individual who lost their life, it is sad to say that they had to lose their lives in that way. That's just the way that I see it. And that's why, as you stated, the only thing, but the reason why I say that the collective has weight to it is because when you have more people able to look at these other individuals who are doing something that is quote unquote wrong, which in reality there really isn't a quote unquote wrong. Like if you look at the animal kingdom, for instance, the animal kingdom doesn't have a right or wrong, and we came from that. So in a sense, we are the ones that can only hold ourselves back based on the collective ideology that we come up with on how to treat each other, based on the laws that we put to govern our societies. And if we're unable to do that, then all there will be is anarchy.
Yeah, so it's basically morality for you then becomes utilitarian because it's just a fabric of that holds society together, which is this subjective morality that the collective have decided to adapt or adopt. And so that brings me to the question: is what makes you as a subjective individual consider something as wrong or right?
And that's actually a really good question, because if we're looking at it or whatever, it's based on how the individual, so it's based on nurture and nature. That's how I see it. It's based on the two. So the way that you grow up actually has an effect on how you see the world around you, and how it affects the way that you interact with individuals who you interact with, and also how you sort of put into the criteria of what is right and wrong. And we see this all over the world, based on religions, based on ideologies, based on political systems, and everything like that. It's all based on the subjectivity, and it's all based on, as you stated, utilitarianism, or so.
Utilitarian. Yeah. Okay. So you've mentioned nurture and nature, and because this is a show about the different kinds of individuals, I want to ask, what is your narrative so far in your 25 years of existence? Like, what journeys have you taken that have brought you to your own belief system right now?
Okay, that's actually a good question for me, because I've been through a lot of religions. So I've been through Christianity until I was 14. Then I went to Islam and stayed in that until I was 19. Then went to Buddhism until I was 20, 21. Deism for 6 months. And the rest of my time, I've been an atheist. So
Okay.
the thing is that for me, I've taken kind of bits and pieces, and there are still a lot of things, the way that I think, I am kind of still affected by the religious experience that I had. And I'm not going to say that that religious experience was bad or not. It's just that when you've delved yourself into religions, it's hard to kind of push those type of ideologies away from you. You need time in order to separate these type of ideologies which have an effect on your mind. So for me, I've taken bits and parts from Christianity, I've taken bits and parts from Islam, I've taken bits and parts from Buddhism, but mostly what I have taken is a lot of it has come through my own self-growth as well, once I separated from religions in general.
Okay, then because you mentioned that now you're an atheist, then I would assume you would have a naturalistic perspective of the universe. And so being a person who would have coherent coherent ideas and beliefs, how would you relate your accidental causality as an individual right now to how you should act as an individual in society?
That's actually also a good question, because for me, I've been through a lot of transitions, as I stated. So through each transition, I had different thought processes through those transitions. So let's just say with Christianity and Islam, I was more conservative. I was more, and I'm not going to lie, I was more against gays, against transsexuals, against bisexuals, against all these things, which are actually part of the natural world. I was against because I believed that it was unnatural, because that's what it states within the Bible and that's what it states within the Quran, that these acts are unnatural. People doing these things are not part of the natural world. They are sinning based on their sense of enjoyment of the act. And afterwards, I kind of grew through that. But anyways, I know I kind of digressed from the actual question, so I am sorry. So I'll jump right onto that question. How I view myself, my accidental causality, because in a sense, nobody knows when they're truly going to be born. Nobody knows on what time span or time spectrum they would be born. I could have been born in the medieval periods, but with the luck of the draw and with the luck of randomness, I am born in the 21st century, or the end of the 20th century and into the 21st century. So that has brought about a lot of technological advancements, that has brought about a lot of scientific ideologies, and also philosophical ideas, new philosophical ideas based on the science that we've come up with. And through those type of experiences, these sorry, my voice cracked, these ideas that have come to us right now through science and through philosophy and so on and so forth have a huge amount of influence within the nature or within nurture. Because for me, my father was actually an agnostic atheist, and for my mother was a Catholic Christian. So for me, I had the point of view of these two points, these two worldviews, and then from there, I kind of, through my own expansion, realized that the way that I was looking at things was not just, because I was hurting people. And for me, the way that I grew up with my mother and with my father was that you don't go around hurting people. So even though this was the subjective collective of the family unit, it was still how I was brought up. And I kind of deviated from that through my Christian and through my Islamic upbringing. But when I went into Buddhism and deism, I kind of went back into that. And that's how I interacted with everybody afterwards. When I interact with people, no matter what they are, if they're gay, if they're bisexual, if they're transsexual or whatever, I see it more as a natural phenomenon now than something that people are just doing in order to whatever sin or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you haven't answered the question of coming from the conclusions of a naturalistic universe. How does that affect you how you act as an individual right now?
Sorry about that. Yes, I did not answer your question at all. I apologize. So the naturalistic universe, the way how it affects me as a person right now is that I see that there's no need for there to be a God in order for us to actually act nice to each other. There's no need for us to sort of what could we do? How could I say it? Like for me, for instance, I see it that the naturalistic order of things has actually a great profound effect on me, because I no longer have that fear. I no longer have that fear that, oh, okay, I need to follow these tenets or else death and hellfire and everything like that is awaiting for me. Now, for me, my number one thing is that, yes, is death coming? 100%. Do people know when death is going to come? Absolutely not. I can die literally right now as I'm talking to you. But the thing is that I'm more content with it than in the past, where I was more afraid of it, because I was like, oh God, now there's going to be hell. Now for me, I just find it as a natural occurrence in life, and there's no reason to fear it. And for that, it kind of has alleviated a lot of those stresses within me, and I've kind of just learned to take it to take it day by day, to sort of be appreciative of each time I open up my eyes. I'm kind of like, I get to live another experience. I get to experience new things. Whereas beforehand, I was actually held back from my experiences based on biblical and Quranic narratives.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and but then there would be the I would say you're still living in the bubble of illusions by which past belief systems are have imposed upon our society now. For example, the idea of a law, the idea of us living in a harmonious society. If, for example, if one were to truly understand that everything came from an accident, then all actions would be part of the option, and the only thing that would stop you from being an evil person would be the law itself, the human laws that society has put surrounded us. And so for example, your motivations for living and being happy, for example, why would you be happy? Like, what's the point of being happy? Or why do you enjoy an experience? If you come from a naturalistic perspective, then I could just end my life and it wouldn't matter. And if enjoyment of life is one of the best experiences that I could make out of this accident, then well, absolute happiness and joy, or maybe inducing happiness drugs or chemicals that would constantly make me have an euphoric experience would be the most valid answer to that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The thing is that you asked a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to hit on all the points. The first point that I would like to take is that life in itself is something that I believe, because that's the thing. My number one thing isn't to force on people, and it's sad that people do take their lives. But the thing is that this is where we live today. This is the environment that we live today. That there are certain individuals who believe that there is no point to life. And because of that, they think that the best way to, or they're hurt, or whatever the situation might be, to such an extent, or they have depression to such an extent that they think that the best way to get rid of that is to end themselves. And it's to me, it's a very sad thing that happens today. But the thing is that for me, life is something to be explored. You are always learning. And that's how I always take it. Every day is a learning experience. So even though, and you are right, if a person thinks that, okay, well, I'm going to take my life right now, well, in a sense, that is not anything that's immoral. You have the right to do that. It's a sad thing to state, but you do have a right to do that. Nobody can force you or tell you otherwise. You yourself need to come up with a reason why not to end yourself. And the thing is that, and for me, for instance, I never had those type of thoughts or feelings or whatever. Even when I was a Christian, or even when I was a Muslim, I never thought about ending my life. And definitely now, as being an atheist, I think that life is the number one thing that should be cherished, because life is meant to be explored. Life is meant to be living. The amount of individuals who die, and I mean like sperm cells, for instance, there are millions of sperm cells, each containing an individual, and you yourself has won that lottery. You have won existence when, in a sense, you didn't. The possibilities were 1 in a million, and you won that out. And for me, the thing that's sad is that if you won that out and you still, through life, think that the number one best thing for you to do, because of whatever is going on through your life at that moment, that you think that you should take your life away, is something that I find that's absolutely sad. That saddens me, because there's so much to live for. There's so much to explore. There's so much curiosity that's out there. Science is coming out with so much new things that it's actually exciting to be living in this time. And it's sad that there are people who are not going to be here to witness that. And so that's the thing, where you can take a nihilist perspective, for instance, and say that, well, there's no reason to live, and henceforth, if I just want to jump off a balcony right now from my 16th story balcony and end myself, well, in a sense, nobody can tell you not to. People could try to stop you, but it is you yourself who needs to come to terms with, is this what I want to do? And nobody else can stop you from doing that except for you. Not you in general. I'm just saying, like, the general you, the royal you. Now, the thing is that, again, and you made another good point, is that if there is actually, sorry, could you make that second point for me, please, and thank you. I kind of forgot.
For example, if happiness is the ultimate pursuit of life, for example, as you say, it's exploration, happiness, the joy of experience, then the best option would be to maximize it and to constantly induce yourself with chemicals in your brain that could help you or give you the constant emotion of euphoria.
Actually, I don't necessarily think that that's true. Now, by the way, I'm not against people utilizing certain drugs or anything like that. And we actually see through Europe, for instance, that there are people, because if you take the more draconian law, let's just say, that says you can't smoke anything, you can't take anything or whatever, you see that it actually destroys the lives of these individuals or the lives of these addicts. But in Britain, for instance, in the 1960s, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been the 1950s, that Britain actually legalized, I think it was heroin. But the thing is that this heroin was actually created in a lab. So it was actually a lab-based heroin. So it was pure. And the thing is that this heroin actually had no effect on the person. So in a sense, it was kind of like them drinking a coffee in the morning and going out to work. And that was a thing that was mind-blowing to everybody. They were like, how the hell do you get heroin from the street and you end up destroying your body, but now you're having heroin created in a lab or whatever with scientists, and like a pure sense of heroin, and it's actually not destroying the body at all. And let alone, they are actually able to work and function as normal citizens. This was something that was absolutely mind-blowing at that time. But the thing is that what we need to come to terms with is that there are certain individuals who need to take these type of drugs in order to as you said, to experience this sense of absolute happiness or absolute euphoria or whatever. Where in a sense, if we really look at it, there is no such thing as absolutes. We want to make an absolute, but there is no such thing as an absolute. And I know that saying that runs into the conundrum of saying that if there's no absolute, then you're actually making an absolutist statement with what you're saying. But in a sense, when we really look at this, absolutes are extremely hard. Actually, let me try to rephrase that. Absolutes are hard to actually see. You can't, it's hard for anybody to point out and say, this is an absolute. You might think that you're reaching an absolute, but you're actually not. An absolute is only within the mind, and everybody has a different sense of what absolute is. So again, absolute is actually based on subjectivity. But anyways, I'm digressing a bit. So what I think is that life in itself is a high. Mm-hmm. that when you experience life, when you go and you explore the world that's around you, go to Bolivia, go up north to literally Nunavut, or to, which I have. I've actually gone up north to Nunavut. And it's a beautiful experience, and it's a humbling experience because there's no trees. There's no, like, literally, it looks like you're on a different planet. And it's the most awe-inspiring thing that you can possibly see. And that's the thing, is that if you experience, and this is the thing, everything is based on moderation. If you go and you just take as much anything as you want, you slowly but surely wish to get that high again. And you will never get that sense of high again because you've gone above, you have overused something. But if you use something in moderation, you will never have that feeling of I need to follow this. I need to go above and beyond this. You are actually content. You're actually tranquil within the environment of which you live and the experiences of which you are experiencing. So that's why when we look at drugs and when we look at just experiencing life in general, these things need to be done in moderation. That's why, like, if you look at the most richest of rich individuals who explore the world and experience everything within a year, let's just say, or within a couple of years, all of a sudden exploration, the fun of exploring, is taken away. And even though that they want to relive that moment, they can't. So they keep trying to push the limits and push the limits and push the limits on the exploration. But if you actually explore sort of slow, but in a moderate sense, then you will never have a feeling of not being fulfilled.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. That the best way to live life is to live it moderately. But then, when you come to terms with the facts, is that even your own experiences, your own opportunity to grab life at the most, grab and crush it, to crush the juices out of it and maximize all the happiness you can get, it would still be utterly meaningless. You would die and you would disappear, and everything you have experienced would be nothing.
That's actually a very interesting point of view. And the thing is that when you look, the experience, like, your experience is only meaningful to you.
Right now.
So if you're experiencing something or whatever, and that's why for me, I don't look at people who are religious and think, you're a fool for being religious. No, I don't look at people like that. My thing is that this is your experience and you believe this experience to be true. Now, or let's just say you like not you, but the royal you, like drugs or whatever. Well, that is you. That is that individual's experience and everything like that. And you are right. Everybody's personal experience is meaningless. But in the great screen, it's the great scheme of things. But the thing is that it can be meaningful to you, and it can be meaningful to the people who you're talking to. So if individuals really do take a liking to the exploration that you've done and the knowledge of which you have, then in a sense you are actually affecting that other individual in a way to make them feel and to make them to see that there is more to life than I actually thought beforehand to that individual. And likewise for the individual who's also talking to, let's just say, me as well. That's why I love going on these forums. I love going on these debates and stuff like that, is because I learned something new. And I hope that I give that perspective to the other individual as well. So in a sense, I am actually having some sort of effect on that individual, but it's based on the the connectivity between the two people. That's why I never shove my ideas down people's throats. And I think that that's the worst thing to possibly do. And also, when you can say with death, you are 100% correct that when you do die, you are kind of, I don't want to say you're forgotten because you're remembered by your family, but you are kind of forgotten, and you're remembered by your friends. But you will slowly but surely be forgotten unless your name is written within the annals of history. You will be forgotten at one point or another, and that is just that. It's normal in the realm of reality. And even a Christian, for instance, or a person who believes in God, yeah, you might believe that you might live forever in another plane of existence, but your name here will be forgotten. Everything that you were here is going to be forgotten in the same instance. So, in a sense, I find that we're both kind of in the same predicament. But it's just for me, I don't necessarily mind if my name is necessarily forgotten or not, because my number one thing is through my experiences, and my number one thing is to treat people with respect and with kindness so that they can, so we can have cordial dialogue.
Okay, let's use a thought experiment, for example, where I'll take your premise that you have to live life. The best way to live life is to live it moderately. For example, if you were put in a vat where you were given these experiences, sex, food, taste, breathing, travel, interacting with other people, but then it would be in a moderate way and would give you happiness, but then it would be simply what you call that, artificial, and for you it would seem real, but it's just information injected into your brain. What would that be to you?
Well, I mean, for me, the thing is that I think that everybody's sense, like there are evidences which are out there which could claim, let's just say, that there's more of a reason why I'm an atheist or whatever through the experience, through the scientific methods and so on and so forth, and through also my own archaeological finds and my own archaeological and anthropological and historical sort of background. I can understand that they're technically, or the evolutionary basis of humanity and God, in a sense, or God and humanity. But the thing is that, as you were stating, let's just say if I was born in a vat and everything like that, and all these artificial things are put inside my head, you're absolutely right. It would be artificial, but it would be real to that person. It would be real to that individual. And henceforth, it is their reality. So, in a sense, it doesn't necessarily matter that it's artificial. Just like how a lot of people state, well, what happens if this world is an artificial reality? What will you do? Nothing. Because in reality, unless I can hack into this artificial world and literally like spam cheat codes, let's just say, and get myself cars and get myself whatever material possessions and make myself extremely happy based on whichever my necessity is or whatever, and based on helping people and stuff like that, and making cheat codes against what I find is the immorality within the world or whatever, or certain immoralities in the world, then 100% I would love that to be. I would love that to be an artificial reality. But in a sense, it's kind of nonsensical because we can't use a cheat code. This is our reality. So even if it is artificial, it doesn't matter because it feels real. And if it feels real, then it is real. Or whatever, until after you die and you're proven otherwise based on whatever you believe in or whatever your thought process is.
Yeah, then that would be a justification. For example, people in Wall Street who are corrupt and who make money, take advantage of others, and they take advantage because that is their reality, and so there is nothing controlling their actions, and so the best way for them to live life, the easiest, or would say using these cheat codes, would be to push themselves in a position where they would have less problems because they would have more money. And so would it be to you right where what other evil individuals do, because it's just them trying to live the best years of their life?
Oh, that's actually a good question. And for me, what I see is that, let's just say with the Wall Street example, right? They automatically, and you're right, there are certain individuals, not everybody on Wall Street is a bad individual, but there are individuals on Wall Street who are what I would claim to be corrupt or whatever. But the thing is, and this is kind of like the thought process that I always had, if you are corrupt, but you're actually helping people through your corruption, through, let's just say, uh, uh, creating public parks, creating public charities, creating schools for children who are not who don't have proper education, or their parents don't have money, but you're getting your money through a corrupt way, then that automatically means that, yes, you are corrupt, but you're using your corruption to help people. So again, does that necessarily mean that you are a bad person if you're corrupt, but you're helping people? Again, it's different. It's difficult, and there are actually people on Wall Street who do actually do charities, who do promote programs or whatever, who do actually want to, like, they're making their money now, but the thing is that they want to die what is called poor or whatever, just like not Steve Jobs, but what's his name? I forget his name again. The guy who created Microsoft, I forget his name, but yeah, Bill Gates, exactly. He's sorry, he's a billionaire, but the thing is that he's going to give his children probably a couple of million, and then put everything else into charities and into making the world a better place. So for me, I don't necessarily mind if something comes out and says, "Oh, Bill Gates is corrupt." Because if you look at all the work that he's done in Africa, if you look at all the work that he's done in certain Asian countries, I kind of see that he's doing something good through his corrupt ways. So you can't necessarily paint it as a black and white scenario. Or
Yeah, but what about the individuals who are corrupt but don't do anything to help the world? Are they good, or are they bad?
Well, the thing is that for them, because again, for me, subjectively, I find that these individuals, I wouldn't necessarily say good or bad. I would just say that these individuals are naive, because I see that even though that you accumulate material wealth, the thing is that when you die, that wealth is not going to be with you anymore. So no matter what you do, you're kind of blinding yourself. They're kind of blinding themselves with the thought process of, I need to accumulate more, I need to accumulate more, I need to accumulate more. And then all of a sudden, when they die, or before they're on their deathbed, they're kind of like, I made, and there are people who actually do snap out of it on Wall Street. Like, they're corrupt now because they're kind of young, but when they get older, they're kind of like, I need to do something with this wealth. Now, there are certain people who don't, and they're able to get away with it. And the thing is that it's not based on right or wrong. It's based on that there's something, the system doesn't work properly. And if the system doesn't work properly, there are going to be people who are going to find loopholes around that system. And finding loopholes around a system that is broken, doesn't mean that you're wrong or right. It just means that the system in itself is broken and you need to fix it.
Okay. Those are good points, but then you're still painting a good or bad here because, for example, if a corrupt man does charity, then he's a good guy. But if he doesn't do charity or he maybe takes advantage of the system, then he is sort of a bad guy because he is naive and prevents himself from experiencing what you would call something a level of goodness which you can achieve from being helpful to the world. And so you're sort of painting a heaven and a hell inside your own paradigm.
Sorry about that. It just kind of froze on me for a bit, so I couldn't unmute myself. Right. So I don't think that I'm creating a heaven or a hell at all, because the thing is that for me, my number one thing is there are individuals who are going to do things that are beneficial, and there are individuals who are going to do things that are not beneficial for anybody. And the thing is that when we really delve into it, it's the only thing that can stop these individuals are the laws that we put into place. And if their laws aren't there, if the laws aren't there in order to curb these type of thought processes, that the individuals who aren't actually helping out anybody through their wealth, let's just say, then the thing is that it's not based on a heaven or hell experience at all. It's based on the law. And if the law has loopholes, well, then automatically humans will try to find a way to utilize those loopholes and actually and use those loopholes for their betterment and for their advantage. So that's just the normal human way of doing things. And we've been doing that throughout our whole existence, 400,000 years ago till now. So the thing is that for me, I don't look at things as black and white or sort of like this is bad and this is good. The thing is what I look at is everything is within the spectrum of gray. And you can be closer to either the black or closer to the white spectrum, but nobody is actually at either the white spectrum or nobody's actually at the black spectrum. Everybody is kind of going about and wanting to live their lives to their best capabilities. And sometimes these individuals do things for their own self-betterment, which is not the beneficial for the betterment of the whole or the betterment of the populace. But that doesn't mean that person is inherently evil or inherently bad or anything like that. It just means that these individuals think that this is going to benefit them in the long run.
Okay, then it's more of what is beneficial to humanity and what isn't, or what is counter beneficial. And so it's still that's why I presented earlier that you from a naturalistic perspective, what would be your conclusions to how you would act in reality? Well, I told you earlier that you are still living in the bubble which the past humanity has created, which is the progress of civilization, and anything that is beneficial to it is the good thing, and the anything that is counterproductive to human existence is closer to the bad thing, or even just of the fact that you say that there is sort of a black and there's sort of a white and there's a gray area means that there is a spectrum by which some people are closer to being bad and some people are closer to being good. You know?
Okay, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from that, but the thing is that maybe I didn't necessarily explain myself properly, because the thing is that what I mean is that everything is based on subjectivity. Now, somebody who helps somebody out, for me, I find is a good, or I don't want to say good person, but their subjectivity is for the what's it called? Not living standards, but they're trying their best in order to help their community. But the thing is that we have constantly seen, even in the past and in history, where certain people believe that helping their community is by eradicating another community or trying to eradicate another community. So the thing is that a lot of people look at human civilization as progress or constantly progressing. And even though that we constantly get sort of like snagged on things that drag us down and actually make us regress. So there's a lot of things where we might think we're heading somewhere, we're heading to progress, but there's always something that makes us regress in the long run as well. So if, for instance, the Romans were a great empire or whatever, or a great republic and then a great empire, and they were actually beneficial to their people. But the people who they invaded and the people who fought against them did not have a wonderful experience, because they would be put into slavery, they would be put into the mines, they would be put into people's houses, they would be used as sex slaves, so on and so forth. So the thing is that when we really delve into it, you might reach for progress, but progress does not correlate with morality, and progress does not correlate with ethics. Progress only correlates with, and I kind of agree with what Karl Marx actually states, is that it's through the economy. That's where true progress comes in. If you have the money in order to put towards a product or a project, which then builds up your technological advancements, then 100% you are progressing. But there are a lot of people, such as within America, such as within Canada, or wherever you go, where they are not following suit on these supposedly moral or ethical, as people call them, progress and everything like that. And because of that, everything is based on the subjective, because people look at things and state, well, I'm looking out for my well-being, but I'm not looking out for your well-being. So my number one thing is I'm going to harm you in order to make my well-being sort of higher in standard or whatever. But at the same exact time, because of progress, and what I'm talking about is economic progress and technological progress, we are still, and don't get me wrong, yes, there are certain moralities, like within the West, for instance, there is no such thing as actual cattle slavery anymore or whatever, even though certain people might state that if you're working for a boss, then you are that boss's slave. But I think that that's actually a horrible example of slavery, because slavery is not based on making money. Slavery is based on being abused on somebody who's making money from you. From your labor and from your work, they're making money, but you're making nil or whatever. That's what slavery is. If you're making money, you're kind of within the extent of a what would you call it? A boss employee type of standard and everything like that. But there are certain places within the world, certain Islamic countries, certain African countries, certain Asian countries, which still have a sense of either indentured servitude or still have a sense of some sort of slavery or whatever. And also, if we really delve into even the Western civilization, there's a lot of people who traffic other individuals. So they take people against their will and through the underground markets, sell these individuals into prostitution and so on and so forth. So still slavery is still a thing. It's just that as a law within the Western society, it's just it's against the law. But there are still hundreds of thousands of individuals who, okay, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but there are thousands of individuals who are constantly being put within this human trafficking type of situation. And henceforth, again, that sort of shows that humans in general, we're growing technologically, but we're not necessarily growing morally and ethically.
Okay, then this would be the last question. With your understanding that morality is subjective, how would an individual make a difference in the world, in your own sense?
Oh wow, okay, that's a good question. The way in order to make a difference in the world is by affecting other people around you. Now, that can be, because remember, affecting the world doesn't necessarily have to be a quote unquote good thing either. You can affect the world in a negative way as well, or a quote unquote negative way. But the thing is that in the end, is based on how you interact with other individuals. And that if you're interacting with somebody and you're able to brighten their day, or you're able to make them, let's just say, happier, or build up their well-being, in my opinion, you are actually affecting the world in a small way. And the higher the position that you're in, and the more money that you have, the more that you can actually affect that. So if you have more money, you can rise up other individuals' well-being, and you actually affect the next generation of individuals who are being born from these other individuals who might have lived in poverty or whatever. So everything is based on how you interact with the general public. And as I stated, I can be interacting with people and they might be like, this guy, I don't like him. He's a fraud. He's a this, he's a that, or whatever. I can't dictate to these individuals that I'm doing what I think is the right thing. But the thing is that if I'm working with people and those people are like, I've found a new perspective, or I now think that your way of thinking is a right way of thinking, slowly but surely we can build a collective which then thinks what we would call more ethically, even though there is no such thing as more ethically, but we can look at it and it can be ethical in standards and everything like that. So again, to make the long spiel shorter is based on the interaction of people together. That's how you change things, and that's how it always is. If you're able to inspire people to act, if you're able to inspire people to react to something which might be a quote unquote negative, then we could definitely, or even a quote unquote positive or whatever, then you are able to influence the world around you subjectively.
Yeah, so Joshua, that's the end, and thank you so much for all of your knowledge that you've shared, and I hope some of the listeners have learned something, and I myself have learned, and it's awesome. So thank you so much. And so that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr., and thank you for listening in, and please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
With MailChimp, you get more than a URL. You get an all-in-one marketing platform to help drive sales. With things like data-driven recommendations and powerful automation tools. Get started today at MailChimp.com/smartmarketing. MailChimp, built for growing businesses.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.